So many celebs. Glenn, can you spot them all? Glenn Close, Mila Kunis, Rooster from Top Gun. Busy weekend in Toronto. Some of the brightest stars in Hollywood in the city for the 50th edition of Tiff. Today's day 5. Big weekend. Obviously, the first weekend is huge for premieres. We had Mila Kunis. She's in the latest Knives Out. We also had Angelina Jolie. She has a new film. And guess who's here this morning, who was busy seeing as many of them as he possibly could. Welcome back.
Thank you.
It looked like it was a pretty fantastic weekend.
It was busy, but it was good. It was good.
What were the highlights for you?
So I got to see, I think, some of the most anticipated films over the past 3 days. And it's interesting. I think this year, Tiff is leaning into more kind of crowd pleasers, perhaps because some of the world premieres have been nabbed by other film festivals like Telluride and Venice. But Knives Out, I think just like pound per pound, star for star, it's hard to think of a movie that was more anticipated at Tiff just because, first of all, look, Tiff and Knives Out have this amazing kind of like marriage now where all the other movies have had world premieres here at the Toronto International Film Festival. And in fact, they did so well that Netflix kind of put a little more effort behind the release. We saw theatrical. So here we were back on Saturday night for the third Knives Out movie, Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery. And this is interesting because it's in a way Rian Johnson, who I spoke to on the red carpet, kind of trying to like pull things back from like the more audacious sequel. This is a little more kind of centered, a little almost old-fashioned. There's a murder in a church. Who did it? All the parishioners are suspects. And so there, of course, the return of Benoit Blanc. Of course, this hilarious, amazing, audacious character that Daniel Craig has so much fun playing. But for me, the headline from the third Knives Out movie is that, in a way, Josh O'Connor stole this movie from Daniel Craig. Josh plays a priest, and this is his community, this is his parish, and he's trying to get to the bottom of what happened. And so kind of in a Sherlock and Watson sort of way, but not quite, they spend, the detective and the father, a lot of time together. Josh O'Connor, you might know him from Challengers. Like, this is an actor who's just exploding. And so for one reason or another, Rian Johnson has really put a lot of this movie around Josh's role. And it's probably the most fascinating part of it. I don't know if this was as kind of deliciously naughty and entertaining as the first Knives Out, but it was a lot of fun. But I think Josh will be the main story. So that's movie number 1. Let's move on to Rental Family.
Oh,
remember Brendan Fraser? Remember The Whale? Remember all of that? And so here's his next big film. And look at that visual. What an interesting idea. This is a movie about an actor, an American actor, who came to Japan many years ago to do commercials and now has found himself kind of at loose ends, and he gets hired, and the director was explaining this is a real thing in Japan for a company where you basically fill in a role in someone's life. You become a pretend father. You become a pretend girlfriend to give an apology so that maybe the wife sees, oh, I know your mistress and now I forgive you. You just do these roles. And so he ends up becoming a pretend American father for a little girl and her mother, and finds himself playing a role that feels a little too real. So really interesting film.
There's a lot of buzz around.
A lot of buzz.
And
it's kind of sad and sweet, and it's about isolation and loneliness. I think this will be a movie that people are going to be talking about in the fall. For me, I didn't feel it really kind of earned the emotion that it was asking for. I felt it was a little kind of mawkish. That's like, you know, the music and everything is telling you to feel a certain way. But I wasn't overly impressed. Although Brendan Fraser, he's like an empathy sponge. He is so good at being that guy and knowing what he is doing is wrong, but still trying to find a way. So I'm kind of mixed on that. Although Our friend Jackson Weaver, CBC's own, loves this film. So maybe we'll debate that on air. And then finally, let's take a look at Roofman. Now, you might have heard this story. Roofman is a movie starring Channing Tatum, and it's about the true story of Jeffrey Manchester, who was the rooftop robber who broke into dozens of McDonald's, robbing them, stealing the money until the police started a manhunt, and he lived in a Toys R Us for 6 months. And now this is a movie with Channing Tatum and Kirsten Dunst, and this is with Derek Cianfrance, the director who gave us Ryan Gosling and Blue Valentine, who gave us The Place Beyond the Pines. But for Derek, the director, and Channing, the trailer advertises this as kind of a bit of a wacky comedy with escapades, but it's actually, I think, a little darker, a little sadder. This is a guy whose life is kind of messed up, and he finds himself in this situation because he can't really cope with his family, with his children, with his responsibilities, and then he starts to get it together. I liked it. I didn't love it, but what I did love was Channing Tatum. You know him from Magic Mike and all the rest, but he actually lost a lot of weight for this role because I think he really zeroed in on this guy's, again, that feeling of isolation and kind of his life falling apart. You see someone who, on the outside, as Channing can be, incredibly charming, but inside kind of haunted and still a little broken. And that character work, I was expecting kind of a comedy, but this is more of a character study in a way, and that is Roofman.
All of which sound like they'll do very well in the theaters when they get into wide release when that
I think so, and I think Rental Family, because it's such a tearjerker, could have a shot at People's Choice.
Okay, for this for TIFF, which still has a whole week to go.
Yes.
One of the highlights of the festival is always the tribute awards, and last night, Catherine O'Hara, one of those who was honored, but you were there to cover all of that. Tell us about that.
This is my first time attending. What an amazing, glitzy affair. Cameron Bailey, the CEO of TIFF, started it off announcing to the world they'd already fundraised $1.7 million. That is the concentration of like wealth and fundraising, and that, frankly, that is what a festival like TIFF needs to do. So it was quite the swishy affair. As you said, giving out a lot of awards. I think you can see Idris Elba there. He made an amazing speech talking about the impact filmmakers make. But we just briefly saw, there he is, Guillermo del Toro. He is directing his ultimate wish list film, Frankenstein, which premieres tonight. We will be on the red carpet. But I want to show you what Guillermo had to say about Toronto and TIFF at the awards last night.
Which is 50 and 60. So it's a whippersnapper TIFF. But TIFF also holds dear the same principles that were true and cherished when it was founded, which is to make a platform in which voices can be heard from all over the world, and they can be heard by, I may add, the greatest audience in any festival in the world.
I mean, such a beautiful... I mean, we know he is like Toronto's adopted son. This is a director who literally has been given the key to the city. But to see what he's saying about filmmaking and about Toronto and about Canada and TIFF and kind of putting it all together.
The same values as when it was established 50 years ago.
Just beautiful. Like going all the way back to the Festival of Festivals. Also, I have to point out, Jodie Foster was given an award.
Yes.
Chandler Levesque, our very own, Canada's very own, the director of Mile and Kicks, she introduced Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster was so humble, saying, I'm so sick and tired of talking about myself. She wasn't using a prompter, talking about how much she loves filmmaking, how much she loved just hanging out on the set and complaining about the second AD and just the process of it. I mean, this is a woman who's been doing it since she was like 6 years old. And then Catherine O'Hara is given, I think, like the Norman Jewison Performance Award. And this tells you the kind of person that Catherine O'Hara is. First, Eugene Levy gets up and says, Catherine's going to hate this because he's going to speak nicely about Catherine for like 7 minutes, sings her praises. And then she gets up, and what has she done? She has done her homework on Norman Jewison, talks about the amazing man that Canadian filmmaker Norman Jewison was, and kind of like in a very funny way compares herself to him, saying she doesn't really hold a candle, and then humbly accepts the award, and she's done. So she made her own award a tribute to our Norman Jewison, but just a legend. You could see the love for her in the room there. So it was
fantastic.
Quite the night.
What a great night. All right, today's day 5, the highlight Eli mentioned, the premiere of Frankenstein, Guillermo del Toro. You'll be on the red carpet. Will we see you tomorrow?
Perhaps,
Somebody will be in
And,
tomorrow.
like, you just need to understand, for Guillermo del Toro, he loves monsters all his life. I remember interviewing him in the AGO, and there was a giant statue of Frankenstein from his own collection. This is the movie he, as a director, has been working towards making his entire life. Mia Goth, Christoph Waltz, Oscar Isaac, they were there last night singing Del Toro's praises. They're going to be on the red carpet tonight. It's going to be a different kind of Frankenstein. Jacob Elordi's going to be there, and I cannot wait.
And I can't wait to hear more about it. Thank you, Eli.
You're
Always
welcome.
great to spend some time with you, particularly during TIFF, Day 5 today.